So B'ezrat Hashem, we begin part 3 with a review of parts 1 and 2. In case anybody missed part 1 and 2, we've always been with a view, so you could be right in with the Torah as if you didn't miss anything. And it's also good for those of us who did learn part 1 and 2. It's a good review. And it's a good review. Then we go into part 3. We're building on. We're not building the penthouse without the foundation. We're strengthening the foundation and keep building. And that's one of the most important things in Torah learning is to review. People don't like to review. They like new things. But we know that even any educational psychologist can tell that the more a person reviews, the more the person retention. There's retention. And the words of the Almighty, we want to retain them in our souls. It's not just learning something. It's not learning British Middle Ages history or history of the British Empire. Okay, we're talking about Hashem's light, Hashem's wisdom. So in reviewing part 1, Rabbi Nachman is illuminating. This entire discourse is an elaboration of what King David said in Psalm 34. Who is the person who desires life and loves days of seeing good? Okay, so Rabbi Nachman is teaching us an important principle, that a person must pursue peace, whatever he or she does, not only between human being and fellow human being, but peace within a person and himself or herself. That the person, you can't have peace with a fellow human being if you don't have peace with yourself. So what does it mean to have peace with yourself? We learned in lesson 1 that there should be no inner conflict. In other words, it should be no difference to a person, whatever's going on in his life, whether things are apparently good or seemingly bad. In other words, when a person is happy, it's not contingent. It's not dependent on anything. The person is inwardly happy. It doesn't matter what the outside variables are. Inside, that person is happy. And therefore, a person's happiness can't be contingent on outside stimuli. Happiness comes from within. So where does happiness comes from the soul. So if we want to look for happiness, we have to go to the soul. So what's the soul? The soul's connection with Hashem, the soul's connection to God. So the closer a soul is connected to God, the more that soul has what's called spiritual awareness, in Hebrew dot, and the soul is able to perceive Hashem everywhere. Wherever he sees, he can see this is divine, this is divine. He sees a beautiful sunset. He doesn't just see it, no artist says he sees it, it's divine light. This is, no artist can do this. This is Hashem, this is divine light. He watches an ant crawling, and that ant is carrying a grain that maybe weighs 6 or 7 times more than the ant. That's like a person walking around with a pack on his back. Say if a person weighs 150 pounds, it's like walking with 1,000 pounds on his back. That's 7 times his weight. And you stop to think, look at this creation. Look at this creation. Person looks at the eye of a bee. What's the eye of a bee? NASA and the whole space program doesn't have a camera so sophisticated as the eye of a bee. The eye of a bee from meters up can see a grain of pollen floating around over a flower and zoom right into it. It's amazing. So a person with spiritual awareness can see God in everything, wherever he's looking. And when you see God in everything, there's an amazing thing that even things that are seemingly bad, we gave a couple examples of previous lessons where someone had a car accident, and because of the car accident, they discovered one of the children in the family had a concussion in the car accident. So when they had checked up, they found out that same child had a malignant tumor. And right away, they did an operation on it. If that hadn't gone detected, if that would have gone undetected, then the child could have lost his life in a matter of weeks. And so we see even something that looks like it's not good. It's always the inner, like with the proverbial silver lining in the cloud. Okay, so when a person finds God in everything, a person at peace with himself or herself, where it makes no difference whether something is seemingly good or something is seemingly bad. We also give another example, but a person wins the Irish lottery. Well, up till now, a simple working person on a salary. Now, a lot of lottery, people say, oh, this is wonderful. Person won 13 million quid. Oh, but now all these friends and relatives come out of the woodwork and it does a minute of sleep. The phone, the doors, somebody's knocking on the door, or someone's ringing on the phone, and they're looking for handouts. So it's not always. No, he said, maybe the guy's got all these millions of dollars, but doesn't have any more inner peace. So what good are the millions of dollars? So we see that King David teaches us this principle in Psalm 56, verse 11. He says, wherever he sees Yud-Kei Vav-Kei, the ineffable name, that's the name of divine mercy. Of course, that's Hashem. It's Hashem's name. But where he sees, look this up, and he sees stern judgment. Stern judgment is the name Elohim. That there's no difference between Hashem, the name of stern judgment, and Elohim, the name of compassion, and Elohim, the name of stern judgment. And that's why we say in Shema, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, that the Lord, our God, the Lord, Hashem, that's the name of mercy. Our God, even though he's doing stern judgment, he's our God. That's the name of stern judgment. So the Lord, our God, the Lord is one. It's no difference. It's no different. These are labor and these are the conservatives. No, it's not two different parties in parliament. It's all Hashem. It's the oneness. And that's why we say Echad. This is the oneness of Hashem. And the oneness of Hashem, this is the second principle of our Amuna. We stressed this in our, if you go back to our Amuna Beams lessons, our Amuna Hour lessons on the 13 principles of Amuna, this was our second principle of Amuna, the unity of Hashem. And so when a person sees Hashem both in the good and in the seeming opposite, he unifies Hashem in the soul, and the soul is unified, and there's no conflict in the soul, and the soul feels at peace. Person could be in combat, person could be combating, it could be a war, or combating a financial problem, or combating a health problem, but person is at peace. Okay, there's this struggle going on, fine, but that doesn't take away from the inner peace. And see, some people, you can send a person on a paid vacation to the Italian Alps and go up in the Alps and above Lugano, and the person is upset, he's nervous, doesn't want to do it himself because he's not at peace with himself. And yet you could take someone in a conflict situation, you see the person is calm because the person is at peace himself. And the person, the inner peace has nothing to do with outside conflict. Okay, so to reach the state, how do we reach the state where there's no difference, where there's no inner conflict? To reach the state where there's no difference, no inner conflict, we need two entities. One is Torah, and the second is Amuna. So all of Torah is peace. And therefore, the more a person is immersed in Torah, the more his or her soul finds peace. We say this every time we return the Torah to Ark. Eitz Chaim Ila Machzikim Bo, Chol Nativot El Shalom. We said that all the paths, the Torah is a tree of life. Its paths are paths of peace. Wherever a person follows the Torah, finds peace. Amuna teaches us that everything is from Hashem, and Amuna teaches us that Hashem's glory fills the world. There's nothing without Hashem. And the more a person has Amuna, the more he or she knows that Hashem is everywhere. In other words, there's no place without Hashem. Don't have to worry. Don't be afraid. Hashem is always with you. So the more a person has Amuna, the more awareness that he or she feels that Hashem is with them, and Hashem is always close. So the closer a soul is to Amuna, the more it feels at peace, the more it feels protected. And that's why King David says it's almost like a baby in a mother's arms. That to be close to Hashem is to be a baby in a mother's arms. Have you ever seen a worried baby in a mother's arms? No such thing. Because this is exactly when the baby goes from lack of worry in the womb and then goes into transfers to the mother's arms, the mother's bosom. No worry. The baby doesn't have to pay the electric bill. The baby is not looking. Baby's got everything he needs right there in mama's arms. So there's nothing to worry. So Amuna, that's right there with Hashem, right there in compassionate Father in heaven, in his compassionate arms. So I think, well, wait a second. Somebody could say, well, maybe we're talking about the people with high spiritual awareness, that the big sadikim, the big righteous people. What about people on lower spiritual rungs that are not yet there? We have to know, let's go even deeper. The lowest, darkest spiritual rungs on earth, they can't exist without Hashem. That means that we can find Hashem everywhere. If we look hard enough, we can find Hashem everywhere, but it requires a little effort on our part. So in the lower places, what's the lower place mean? The lower spiritual level, the lower rung, it means that there's just more concealment. the lower we go, there's more concealment. Hashem is hiding behind another layer, Okay, so that doesn't mean Hashem's not there. Even Hashem is hiding, Hashem is he's still there. We just have to peel away the layers of concealment. Now, there's additional benefit from getting close to Hashem. The more a person has emuna, the closer he or she gets to Hashem. And the closer they get to Hashem, the more they get to know Hashem. This is so gratifying. Why people lack love of Hashem? Because they're far away from Hashem. They don't know Hashem. If they would realize that that's Hashem, that every moment of their life, every heartbeat, every breath, every brain impulse, just imagine it takes 90 million brain impulses to take your finger and to lift it 90 degrees. 90 million brain impulses. Every single brain impulse is Hashem's divine direction, personal divine direction. It's not any angel, no guardian angel that gives you life. Only Hashem gives you life. Only Hashem gives you life. So that's Hashem's personal divine supervision of your life. So a person realizes it. Every brain impulse, every heartbeat, every breath, what about every step you take that involves the whole body? It's all Hashem. So a person who's close to Hashem, he's thanking Hashem all day long. And this is what King David says in his closing verse in Psalm 150, the last verse of the last Psalm. He says, Kol haneshama tehalelka. He says, all living souls that will bless you. And the Gemara says, wait a second, that's not King David's intention. King David means neshima. All neshama, the word for soul. Neshima is the word for breath. So it's every breath blesses you. So this is what the Midrash Tehillim tells us, that we should really bless Hashem with every single breath. And the more closer a person is to Hashem, this is how close King David was to Hashem, that he knew he couldn't take the next breath without Hashem. That every volume of oxygen he breathed is from Hashem. Every molecule. Imagine, there's so much to thank Hashem about. And if a person focuses on Hashem, really, that's why Rabbi Nachman says you can't be full clinging to Hashem straight up, because you won't get anything done. It should be thanking Hashem for every brain impulse, thanking Hashem for every molecule of oxygen. It's unlimited. Just Hashem is unlimited. Our obligation to thank Hashem is unlimited. But the Hashem, he's okay with it. The fact that they thank him on prescribed times, it should be at least every day. Okay, so that's the advantage of getting close to you. Get to know Hashem. Now, what happens when you get to know Hashem? Our brains are housed in flesh and blood. They're within a skull, flesh and blood brain. But within that brain, there is a spiritual microchip that no scientist, no doctor knows how to describe. This is only in Amuna. This is only in the Torah. Now, what's the difference between a live person and a dead person? It's the life force. Okay, ask a physician, professor emeritus physician, professor emeritus a cardiologist or neurologist, excuse me, professor, doctor, what is the life force? Okay, can give a person life? No, he can't give a life force. Maybe you could do a heart, Dr. Christian Bernard in Joburg, he could do open heart surgery. He was famous for that. And another doctor do brain surgery, but give a life force? Only Hashem could do that. And no one knows how to describe the life force except for the Zohar. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, he tells the life force and takes right out from the Torah in Genesis, that this is the soul that Hashem breathes into the person. And the soul has three main parts. We're not going to go into the anatomy of the soul, learn that, but in a near chance, we'll review that also. But the soul, the tiny part, the neshama, the divine soul that's in the brain, that's the life spark. That's the difference between a person being alive and a person being deceased. So what is that life spark? That's a tiny part of the essence of God. We have no idea about the essence of God, but we do know one thing. This is Hashem's divine wisdom. And the more a person gets to know his or her own soul, the more they get to know Hashem, because the soul is a part of Hashem. So a person cannot do that on just stressing the physical side of his life. He needs to stress the spiritual side of his life. So a person, the more it gets to know Hashem, the higher he goes, and the more he gets divine light, and the soul gets stronger. Hashem strengthens the soul because the soul becomes a stronger vessel. It's capable of holding more divine light. Now, Hashem doesn't give all this strong divine light to a person in a low spiritual rung, because it would be like giving 3,000 watts of electricity to a 60-watt light bulb. That's not doing the light bulb a favor. It would explode. Okay, so Hashem wants us to be worthy spiritual vessels, and once we're worthy spiritual vessels, he fills us full of divine light. We get divine light, we get closer to him, we're happier, and we're more at peace. Okay, so with a greater illumination, divine light, a person comes to love Hashem more and more. You know, when a couple, happily married couple, they've been married for 20, 30 years, and they look at each other, they say, you know, we didn't even know each other. When we got married, we didn't even know each other. And what's the infatuation, the romance that people call love, that's got nothing comparable to the love that a couple has after they've been married 20, 30, 40 years. And it's completely different dimension. This is the same thing that Hashem gives us, this love between person. We can understand the love between the soul and Hashem. Okay, so that was part one. Part two, we learned that there are two types of days. There are good days and bad days. Well, we all love the good days, and we all are very happy to get along in the good days. But we have to remember that the bad days, they're also from Hashem, and the seemingly bad days, and Hashem loves us. So Hashem's compassion is simply hidden under levels of concealment on the bad days. It's surface. Once we scrape away the surface, we can see that inherent in the bad days are good days also. Because Hashem loves us. So our job on the bad days is to take a close look, to observe closely, and look for what we mentioned, the proverbial silver lining in the cloud, the silver lining in the cloud, and the inherent good within the seemingly bad. And that way we peel away the layers of concealment and reveal the underlying good. It's like you're wearing your winter clothes and you go out in the hot sun, take off your coat, you take off your sweater, feel better and better and better. So the lower an entity's spiritual level, the greater the concealment of divine light. And that's not a punishment. That's just simply to protect that person, because the person has a soul that is commensurate with his or her spiritual level that can only handle so much divine light. Because of too much divine light, to go crazy. The Gemara describes this in Tractate Chagigah, when the four wise men, they were exposed to divine light. The only one that came out alive was Rabbi Akiva. That one went crazy, and Ben Zoma went crazy. Ben Azai lost his life, and Acher, he went completely crazy. And the one that only came out healthy was Rabbi Akiva, because Rabbi Akiva, his soul was prepared for this amount of divine light. Okay, so when a person moves up the ladder of spirituality and strengthens soul and emuna, they expose themselves to a greater measure of divine light, and therefore less concealment. And we do it gradually, they get themselves stronger. We can understand that with a runner. A person, say, is a couch potato. So the person can't run, but get out of the sofa and start walking around the block. And he walks around the block 1 day, 2 days, or a week and 2 weeks. Now he walks 2 blocks, then 3 blocks. And after he's losing 5, 10 pounds, we say, try jogging a little bit. And he jogs a little bit and put him on a good diet. He keeps on exercising until he finally can jog for a kilometer, and then he can run and jog, and finally work up till he's running the marathon for 26 miles, 42 kilometers. And this is the same way spirituality. Person can't, sometimes people that newly awakened, you're reaching the light. No, but a lot of people that have this big awakening, they have a great big fall, because when they expose themselves to this light, they don't know what to do with it. Okay, so we strengthen ourselves. We get on a higher level by strengthening our Amuna. And that's why people put so much emphasis on emuna, because emuna is not only for the Jewish people. Emuna is for the whole world. And the whole world. And that's why it's so important. It's so important that if someone's not Jewish, to learn the Nohide laws. And we don't talk about all the Noahide laws necessarily, but talk about the first Noahide law, which is Amuna. In other words, the first Noahide law and the first law of 10 Commandments of Torah, it's the same law. It's for all of humanity. It's the same thing. There's no difference between Amuna for a Jewish person And for a Noahide, no difference. So when we're ever learning emuna, that's why what we pick the particular stress in teaching Rabbi Nachman, and we stress the emuna segment of it. It's not the Rabbi Nachman teaches a lot of other teachings that maybe are not so relevant to a person that's not Jewish. Okay, what Rabbi Nachman talks about, picture the power of tefillin and the power of tzitzit. We circumvent those two, and pick the discourses that stress emuna, and that's why we're learning discourse with this particular discourse, because it's all emuna. It's that no difference, no daylight between the good and the seemingly bad. So true happiness on a seemingly bad day, it's going to be just like on a good day. That's attainable by strengthening our amuna and making ourselves worthy vessels for a greater measure of divine light. And that's the incentive for learning amuna. Okay, with that, we begin lesson 3. That's our new part. And we're in letter 4 in the Hebrew. It's letter 4 in Torah 33. Begin with the Hebrew and then translate it. Okay, what is the Torah? The Torah is midot, it's character traits. Midot is the word for character traits. Whose character traits? It's the divine. The Almighty reveals his character traits within the Torah. So the more we get to know the Torah, the more we get to know the Almighty, his character traits. And what these character traits, Rabbi Nachman says, they correspond to days. Hainu ayamim, sho'eh b'ma'avaso yitbarach. Because on the days, we say that Hashem's characteristic of loving all his creations, loving all his children, this love hovers on every single day. And it's right out there. It's like being in a field and there's wild raspberries out in the field. Go out and collect them. Okay, the person doesn't want to go out in the field and maybe he's afraid, but you know, when you pick a raspberry, there's thorns on those raspberries. Sometimes your hands get them, but the raspberries are so sweet. So he's the person that doesn't want to get out of bed, or a person don't want to get out of the sofa, says, no, the sun's too hot outside. I don't want to go out there. My friend, you're missing out on a sweet treat. Those are wild raspberries. Okay, this is Hashem's love is right here. Rabbi Nachman said, right in the days. And it says, this is what the Jeremiah the prophet says, Avat olam avticha. Jeremiah in sub 31, he says in the name of Hashem, that I have loved you forever. You think I'm giving a rough time? Hashem looks at every one of us, and Hashem says, I've loved you forever. So you think it's a bad time? Ooh, this is very embarrassing. This is very embarrassing when a person finishes his or her 120 years on earth, and they go up to the pearly gates, and they think they had a rough time. And Hashem shows, I've loved you forever. And Hashem shows how the difficult situations were for your own good, and how it was for love. It's easy to understand. A person has a terrible, terrible infection, and the person goes to a doctor, and the doctor has this great big hypodermic needle. Ooh, and it's going to go in a place it hurts. It hurts. Okay, does the doctor, what is he doing? But it's going to knock the infection out. Is it a sign of love, or hey, doctor, that stings. Doctor, I won't be able to sit for a couple hours. No, but the doctor is doing something completely compassionate. Take a person from Papua New Guinea who doesn't know what a fork is, and bring him to Sinai Hospital, to the surgical ward, and he sees they bring in a person with an emergency appendectomy, and the surgeon takes a scalp and he's starting to cut open the guy's appendix. And the guy from Papua New Guinea says in his language, hey, calm down. What he sees, it's someone Papua New Guinea walks with a knife in his hand. That guy's out for your life. No, you better run, or run up a tree, go somewhere. But he doesn't understand this compassion. It's the same thing with us. We're like primitive natives in Papua New Guinea when we see Hashem is doing something difficult and we don't understand what it is. But this is all a spiritual appendectomy. Hashem is doing something to bring us closer to him. Hashem is doing something to clean us up. So that's why with Jeremiah prophet, the prophet says all the days are good and within the days are love. Rabbi Nachman continues, that the days are constrictions of godliness. Hashem can't expose himself right out, like it exposed him like he did to Moses on Mount Sinai. Only Moses could do that. So anybody else, the soul would leave to be finished. The person would be a puddle of flesh and blood, wouldn't be alive anymore. So Hashem has to constrict himself in a measure that is digestible to each of our souls. And Hashem, once again, is not doing us a favor when he exposes his divine light more than we can handle. And Rabbi Nachman says that Hashem is doing this. He hides in order that we can understand him by way of his measure, by way of his mercy, by way of his compassion. Like the Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai wrote in the Zohar, begin dishmodenla in order to get to know Hashem. In order to get to know Hashem. Without Hashem's midot, his character attributes that he conceals within the day's events, person can't get to know Hashem. And that's why we have to look for Hashem in everything, because Hashem is right there. The more we look for Hashem in everything, the more we see Hashem in everything. For example, a person is really angry and a person missed the bus or missed the train and finds that there was some terrible accident on the bus or terrible accident on the train. And he realizes, wow, Hashem did me a big favor. So what looked to me bad, that I missed the flight or missed the train or missed whatever it was all for the best. Everything Hashem's for the best. And when a person accustoms himself to this positive mindset that everything is the best, everything surely is for the best, and that enables a person to have a perpetual smile on his or her face, and that's fantastic. That's inner peace. Inner peace is just knowing that whatever happens in my life, it's all for the best. It's all for the best, and there's no exceptions to that rule. Rabbi Nachman says, "Umachmat ahava shavet Yisrael matzashit bekuba avavatov kimo olam hagashmi." The fact that Hashem loves us, Hashem gives us these physical entities to love. A person loves another person. A person loves a certain food. A person loves a sport. Hashem gives us all these physical entities so that we can learn about love, because that's the way we can learn about love. If you go right to a person and say, oh, you got to love Hashem. Where's Hashem? What's Hashem? He doesn't know who's against who. No, but you give him something that he really loves, music he loves or food he loves. You know how you love Hashem? You know how you love Hashem? You know how that made you happy? Just imagine what it is when you feel that Hashem is in your life and you feel the divine presence. Forget about it. That's your favorite food is nothing. And this is what King Solomon says in Song of Songs. If you offer a person who loves Hashem or who knows Hashem any other type of love, say, get out of here. Would you offer me something cheap? It's like a person drives a Maserati and you go up to the guy who owns the Maserati and you say, would you like to drive my Fiat? Would you drive? Come on, I drive a Maserati. I don't need to drive your Fiat. Okay, this is what the Zohar tells us, that all that happens in our lives in order to get to know Hashem. Rabbi Nachman continues, the fact that Hashem loves us so much, Hashem wants us to cling to him. Hashem loves every one of his children, wants us to cling to him. And that's why Hashem gives us the physical world, so we'll learn how to cling to something we love, and that's how we cling to Hashem. And this is the 613 mitzvot. Why does the Torah have 613 mitzvot? That Hashem decided that by way of the 613 mitzvot, a Jew can understand him, get to know him. And the person asks me, well, what about a Nohide, the Nohide 7 mitzvot? And we learned Amuna and the Nohide. Go back and you could read the whole chapter in our book, Amuna and the Nohide. The Nohide mitzvot are not only 7, they're really, Maimonides lists them as a little more than 30. Okay. And you have to understand, so what's the difference between a Jewish soul and a Noahide soul? It's not that one is better than the other, it's one is different. You could say it's the difference between a diesel engine and a benzene engine. That they use different types of fuel because their engines work differently and they have different combustion ratios. So it's the same thing. The Noahide soul has a different type of soul, a different type of job to do, and the Jewish soul has a different type of job to do. So imagine the difference between a tractor that has to pull a very heavy load and a fine-tuned machine that has to do precision machinery. Okay, this machine needs fuel, and this machine needs fuel. But you can't define tune machinery doesn't work on the same as a tractor. Now, the tractor can't do that fine-tuned job. The fine-tuned job can't pull the tons that a tractor can't pull a plow, do what the tractor does. In other words, each one has its job, and each one requires a different amount of fuel. So Hashem gives the Noahide the mitzvot, the commandments that the Noahide needs in order for the Noahide soul to cling to him. And Hashem gives the Jewish soul the souls that it needs in order to cling to him. For example, a Noahide man doesn't have to put on tefillin. It's like a treating something, changing the oil in a diesel engine that you don't have to change oil in a Tesla. It's a bit different, or spark, but it's different. It's electric car. So this has a different power source. So have what one soul as one type of engine and needs for its maintenance and its proper functioning, another soul needs something different. That is the difference between the Jewish soul and the Noahide soul. Same difference between electronic engine and a gasoline engine, or gasoline engine and a diesel engine. Okay, so this is why does Hashem give us these commandments? Because Hashem knows in his divine wisdom that these commandments are going to help this person get close to him. This person, for example, take the mitzvah of tefillin. A Jewish person cannot get close to Hashem. A Jewish man can't close to a person without tefillin. That's the way that his soul is built. But a Noahide, he doesn't need tefillin. That doesn't add anything to him. That doesn't help him, doesn't hurt him, doesn't help him. He doesn't need it. It doesn't need it. So why do something he doesn't need? There's plenty of other things that he does need. He needs to believe in Hashem, and he needs to have a court system, and he needs to be faithful in marriage, and he needs to be upright and honest, and he can't kill people. This is Noahide. And it's also a good idea. It's also for him to do straight in commerce and to respect his parents. These are things that the Noahide soul needs. Okay, you can see the difference more about that in Amuna and Noahide. I don't want to go in that very deeply, but just understand that Hashem gives each soul, and even what looks like people are egalitarians. Now, you can't have egalitarian. There's no egalitarian fuel between a jet aircraft and a Tesla car. They use different fuel. So there's the thing. Every soul is unique. Every soul is unique. So every soul is tainted with this artist, the soul. This is Hashem's, the thumbprint is the artist's signature on every person. Why does Hashem mass produce thumbprints? Why doesn't Hashem mass produce? Every child in second grade learns that every snowflake is unique. I'll learn this. What does Hashem go to the trouble? And the snowflakes are on the lowest order of creation. The Arizal teaches there are 4 orders of creation. There's domem, there's the mineral, the basic mineral level, and then semach, and then the plant level. And then we go up further, there's the animal level, and there's the human level. That's the top. So if at the mineral level, every single molecule, you could find every single DNA, every single chromosome, is different, than every single person has a different DNA map, a different chromosome map, every single person. And certainly the thumbprint, then we can know at the human level, it's certainly going to be that way. So Hashem is giving each one of us, this is such divine love within the Torah, both the 613 mitzvot and the Noahide commandments. There is so much divine love. And the more you learn them, the more you feel that Hashem's love for you. Rabbi Nachman continues, Lemashal, Shishir Badato mitzvah tefillin. Shemitzvah zot tzarich liot kacha, mitzvah kacha. Rabbi, it says, okay, take an example of the mitzvah of tefillin, okay, for a Jewish man. First says, okay, I want to make a special tefillin. I want to make my tefillin out of silver and gold. That's not what the Torah says. The Torah says you're going to make your tefillin out of straps from cattle straps. You're going to take leather, cow leather, and make not any other kind of leather. You take cow leather. The Torah gives exactly how to make them, because this is divine wisdom. What Hashem now knows for the soul, this is how it brings the soul close to him. So within that mitzvah, within that commandment, is a hidden divine light. When a person performs the commandment, the person internalizes divine light, and that's why the soul has so much gratitude for divine light. For example, let's take another example that is close to the same thing for a Jew and a Nohide. This is universal. Let's take the example of charity. Okay, charity is loving kindness. You know who you're acting like? You're acting like the Almighty. Because the Almighty, he doesn't need anything. He doesn't ask us for anything. He's only giving. When a person gives charity, a person is giving of himself, and he's acting just like the Almighty. Acting just like so when a person gives charity, there's a lot of dividends in charity. Forget about it. When a person gives charity, maybe he won't see it right away, but minimum, he'll get it 10 times back. And the better the charity, the more important the charity is, that they'll get even more. So probably the biggest charity you could do, even more than helping a hungry person, buying food for a hungry person, is a hungry soul, bring another soul closer to Hashem. And that's why we put so much effort on spreading Amuna, and no charge for the lessons, no charge for the Zoom, no charge from lectures. We don't take lecture fees, and no, it's all to bring people closer to Hashem, So we give of ourselves, and we give that. This brings us closer to Hashem because we're acting like Hashem. And this is the beauty of charity. The beauty of charity. For example, Hashem knew he gave us that as a charity. A person to say to Hashem, and in fact, one of the Roman emperors asked Rabbi Yeshua in a Gemara, okay, if Hashem is so compassionate, why do you make poor people? Well, there's a lot of deep explanations. Maybe that poor person failed to give charity in an earlier go around, and now he sees the importance of charity. But by having a poor person, this poor person enables so many other people to do this mitzvah of giving charity. And we have causes that we get together and we donate for a cause. This gives us the privilege of acting like Hashem. When we act like Hashem, we get to know Hashem. Okay, so we see that Hashem's divine light is hidden within each mitzvah, within each command of Torah. By fulfilling the commandments of Torah, Rabbi Nachman says, we internalize, the commandment becomes ours, because we earn that commandment. We earn that commandment, we earn the divine light that is within that particular commandment, and it strengthens our soul, brings us close to Hashem. And what does Hashem do? Hashem gives us greater spiritual capacity for more divine light. Give you another example. What Rabbi Nachman is talking about, you can see this stressed even stronger in the Gemara. The Gemara says that a person that does certain bad deeds, that he doesn't have compassion for other people, Hashem won't have compassion on that person. Okay. Or a person that doesn't have compassion on people is a person that lacks spiritual awareness. So person, Hashem doesn't have compassion on him. What do you do? Okay, simply do. The Gemara says in another place that one of the rewards for charity is Hashem gives that person spiritual awareness. So when a person gives charity, Hashem gives them the reward of spiritual awareness. So if a person is not spiritually aware, a person is a dumbbell. Spiritually, he's a dumbbell. But now he goes and gives charity. There's a law that Hashem has to give him or her that spiritual awareness. That person, just by giving that charity, gets closer in a way that he may never do. Just give you this one example that could go in every single one of the mitzvot of the Torah and say how it brings it close. Okay, so that's why Rabbi Nachman is showing that within every character trait of Hashem, which is intrinsic in every mitzvah, there is the love of Hashem, that Hashem loves himself. Hashem sees himself with every one of us. I am with my beloved daughter. I'm with my beloved son. So when my beloved daughter, my beloved son fulfills this mitzvah, they get closer to Hashem. They feel the love. Ah, wow. Don't you want your kids to love you? Who doesn't want their kids to love them? Hashem wants his kids to love too. So Hashem gives us the opportunity to do the commandments, and we love them. Then what happens? Here's the big benefit. That when we do the mitzvot, Hashem gives us the strength to bend our evil inclination, to make the evil inclination succumb and become subservient to the soul. And that way, a person gets closer to Hashem. When a person gets close to Hashem, a person gets closer to inner peace. and overall peace. And that's what King Solomon told us in the Torah, Kol Nativotel Shalom, that all its paths lead to peace. Continuing on, the Torah has two aspects. The Torah has a revealed aspect, and the Torah has an esoteric, a concealed aspect. And the revealed aspect is from a very high divine level that's above things we can grasp. But the revealed Torah, this is from a level that we think we're able to grasp, but the more we go, really, the revealed level is just showing, it's showing a little bit of exposed, of exposed part of the Torah. And the more we involve ourselves in it, the more we get to know it. Okay, so by getting to learn more and more Torah, we expose ourselves to the peace, because all this path are peace. We now are up to letter Hey, the letter 5, part 5 of Torah 33. And now Rabbi Nachman explains that there are two types of love. Yeshnei minei avot, two types of love. Chat avat b'yamim, k'mo shematu, yamim yitzav Hashem. One is a love of days, what King David told us, Psalm 33. Yom adazel kula yomin. That's what King Rabbi Nachman, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai says in Zohar. Shebachol yom animidav mida yesham avato shashem yitbarach v'zeh befual. That we learned in every day in our lives, we open our eyes, we look at, there's a love of Hashem. And just imagine that Hashem takes you out of your house in urban Manchester and puts you up in the French Alps, and you wake up and you see these mountain tops and you see all this and breathe this alpine air. How can you not feel Hashem's love? Why, look what Hashem did. Hashem gave us the money to go on vacation. Hashem gave us the money to leave the big city. Hashem gave us the money. Oh, what Hashem, just stop and think about it. And not only that, Hashem lets us sit together on our front porch with the mountains in the background, and we can and learn Rabbi Nachman's teaching. What is it? Hashem is giving us paradise in this world. Yosef and Sarah, I couldn't resist. Okay. There we go. Yeshava shebu b'koach. And this is the revealed love. But then there's ava b'koach. There's potential love. Potential love ben Yisrael v'shmayim kodem abriya. What's the potential of? The potential of love is our capability. Hashem created before creation, before he put us on earth, before he put Adam down on earth, there is this capability up in the heavens of loving Hashem way beyond more than we can imagine. Okay, but how do we do that? That was when we were not yet human beings. We're not actual people. We were just an idea in the divine psyche, and then from the idea in the divine psyche, I can't go any deeper to that because I'll myself get mixed up. And then Hashem created us from his own original idea. Rabbi Nachman explains it like this: there is love that a father loves a son. Anybody can understand a father's love for a son, a mother's love for a son, father's love for a daughter, a mother's love for a daughter. We all understand that. Okay. Many of us are parents, and we can understand that. Rabbi Nachman says, even say, okay, the couple just got married, and the couple doesn't have kids, but they have this idea in their brain about their children. Okay, this is especially with the man, because the man is the giver. He gives the seed to the woman. So Rabbi Nachman says the man has in his brain, the seed comes from the brain. It goes down back, the backbone into the reproductive organs, but the seed originates in the brain. And this Alta Zohar tells us. So the man conceives, what kind of son? When I have a son, it's going to be like that. I'm going to love him like this, going to raise him like this. In other words, you have a conception of your son even before he was conceived. On your wedding night, you have to accept what's my son going to be like? What's my son going to be like? And this, we can understand the same thing, that Hashem is a parable. Hashem had a conception of how he wants us to be before we were created. But so we can't fully understand this connection between a parent and a child before the child is born. Okay, Hashem knows that this is Hashem's blueprint for creating his children. But we can't understand this because it's divine wisdom. We can only understand what we have in this finite world, only understand with our flesh and blood intellect, what we have in this finite world, what Hashem gives us with his character trait, his midot within the world. We can't understand what the future, what's going to be, what's not yet in the world. And the love that's in our brains is above time and above space, because the neshama, a soul in our brain that's above time and above space. So the exposed Torah, it corresponds to this world, and the esoteric Torah, the secret Torah, it corresponds to the brain, divine wisdom that we have no idea about. We try, but the higher we go, the more closer to Hashem, then the more the concealed Torah becomes apparent to us. And this is like the great sadikim who are on such high levels that could understand fully the secrets of Torah. Ulatid levo, Rabbi Nachman says in the future, what's going to happen when Mashiach comes? When Mashiach comes, that the secret Torah is going to be revealed. When the Torah is revealed, the righteous are going to, with the point, oh, that's Hashem. That's who I was yearning for. That's Hashem. That didn't know my brain I was yearning for. And here he is right now. Okay, that is be revealed. And then Hashem will take away his concealments. In other words, when Mashiach comes and Hashem exposes himself and the holy temple is going to be built, there's not going to be any more defamation of Hashem's name, because people, even they were the biggest agnostics and the biggest atheists, they're going to bow down. They're going to bow down and eat the dust of Amuna. Eat the dust of Amuna. A person that has Amuna, they're going to slick the soles of an Amuna person's shoes. They're going to anything they could get any way they could get, because of what they've done. They wanted to refuse Hashem, so it'd be difficult for them to learn Amuna. But now it's in their face; they won't be able to deny it. And this is what Isaiah the prophet says. Isaiah the prophet says in chapter 25 that the world is going to be filled with spiritual awareness, just like the sea is filled with water. Just like the sea covers the world, that emuna and divine awareness is going to fill the world like the sea. So here's the advantage. Look what you do. You have no idea what you're doing. Learning Rabbi Nachman's teachings and Rabbi Nachman's teaching of Amuna and an Amuna hour and Likutei Moharan, that before Mashiach comes, you're learning the secrets of the soul, Amuna, that only the whole world will know what we're learning now after Mashiach comes. But here we get to learn it before Mashiach. And that's why everybody in our group, if you're a Nohide, after Mashiach comes, you're going to be the head of a Nohide academy with 10, 20, 50,000 pupils. and if you're Jewish, you're going to be at the vanguard in the Holy Temple. This is the pyramid society. You have no idea, because this is the light. This is the light of Mashiach. We are now learning Torah 33. This is the light of Mashiach right here. And this is why Rabbi Natan said, after he learned this Torah, Rabbi Natan said, he said, I'm fine. My Mashiach is here already. He says, this is what Mashiach is going to teach me. I'm not waiting for Mashiach. I'm learning it right now. So Rabbi Natan, he said, after I learned this from Rabbi Nachman, my Mashiach is here already. Okay, so this is the tzaddikim. They're going to point in the finger and they're going to say, that's Hashem. ושיתגלה הפנימיות, היינו אלוקותו, אז יתרבה השלום, כמו שכתוב, יראו, ישחיתו כל הר קודשי כמו להצדס, ויתגלה אהבה שבדעת. When this divine light becomes apparent, and people get to know the divine light, then there will be all this peace in the world. There will be peace in the world. There won't be any strife. Peace in the world, because Hashem is peace. And that is what they say, that people, that Isaiah the prophet says, let me translate this, they will do nothing evil or vile on all my sacred mountain, for all the land will be filled with knowledge. Knowledge, I translate, is not knowledge, it's a dot, it's spiritual awareness. All knowledge will be filled with knowledge, not just knowledge like Britannica knowledge, spiritual awareness with Amuna. That's what we're learning right here. So this is what the prophet Zechariah says, Vaya yom echad yivada, shigale ava shnikra yom, k'mo shekatuv yom hamatzeh b'chaz doi, hainu haTorah. The prophet Zechariah tells us in chapter 14, verse 7, that's going to be the day that Hashem will become known to humanity. And this is indicated in the first day of creation. That Hashem saw the light and it was good. So the Gemara says in the name of Zechariah the prophet that Zechariah is talking about Hashem's, and we can now see Hashem's intention. He saw the light and it's good. He's not talking about sunlight, talking about moonlight, talking about the light of creation that he put aside and saved it for the righteous when Mashiach comes. So Hashem saw this light. What's going to happen despite all the rocky history of the world and everything's going on? Hashem saw this is going to be good. And this is what King Solomon says in Proverbs chapter 4, Ki lekach tov natati lechem. And this is, I give you a good portion, the good portion, and that's Hashem's divine light. So now we learn, V'yesh gam tzadikim she'em tzfunim mustarim. Rabbi Nachman closes this part of the Torah, that there are secret tzaddikim, that the world is not worthy of them, so they can't be known yet, and they're hidden, but they're also, that's Hashem's divine light in the world. And Isaiah the prophet says in chapter 3, Imut sadic ki tov, that you should know there's the good in the world, that's the hidden tzaddikim, and they're also called light. V'shikalet tzaddikim atzfunim, also when Mashiach comes, and you see all these people, maybe you're going to see the corner fishmonger, and you find out the corner fishmonger, he was a hidden sadic. The corner fishmonger, or you go maybe the local tire changer. I once went to have a tire changed, and in Ashdod, there's a lot of holy people. Man, this guy changed the tire, and I hear this guy mumbling. They're mumbling. They get closer. Is there? What's he mumbling? He's changing the tire. They're mumbling. He's mumbling in Aramaic. And I said, "Excuse my brother. Come on, don't play games. Where are you holding?" And he looked at me, he smiled, and he was mumbling the Zohar by heart. The secret tzaddik. He's the Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai's the book of the Zohar, the book of esoteric teachings. This guy knows this by heart, and he's changing tires. You could take changing tires in the industrial park in North Ashdod. You can see there's all these righteous people walking around. You see sometimes a widow every Friday morning. She gets a basket of food on her front doorstep, and there's $150 or 100 quid in there, and she doesn't know who did. So who's the tzaddik that's doing that? Who's the tzaddikus? Who's doing that? That's cooking for that widow who's putting the money. Okay, you're going to see. There are going to be big surprises. Just like Bill said, this is going to be one of the joys when Mashiach comes, that these tzaddikim be exposed. And now, when we finish up tonight's lesson, is what we learn. The galzevim tzedeh im keves. The wolf will dwell with the lamb, chapter 11, Isaiah, verse 16, because then the love is going to be so much, Hashem's love is going to be so much, people are going to get close to Hashem because they get spiritual awareness, that it brings so much peace in the world, and the peace in the world will influence all of creation, so much influence all of creation. Where do we learn the influence of creation? We learn the influence of creation in Noah, in the second chapter of Torah, the book of Noah, not the book of Noah, the Parshat Noah, the Torah portion of Noah, that say, why did Hashem put a flood on all the earth? What were all the animals punished for? Why were all the trees punished? Why is everything buried? Everything, three cubits of topsoil were washed away. What's all good? The Zohar explains that because man was so evil in the time of Noah, and man, there was no unfaithful, everything was go. There was no faithfulness, and the one even with animal. I don't even want to be descriptive of it. Okay, but because of the evil in the world, the evil penetrated the animals. the evil penetrated the soil. The only thing that the evil didn't penetrate was the fish in the sea. The fish in the sea, that's why the water, a body of water, and so the sea is a kosher mikveh. The sea is a kosher ritual bath because, and the fish in the sea, the fish in the sea, they don't have spiritual impurity. Okay, not like that. A dead animal has spiritual impurity. A dead fish is just a dead fish, doesn't have spiritual impurity. Okay, but the sea doesn't receive spiritual impurity. And so it wasn't affected. But we see that when a person does good, Rashi explains a measure of good is 500 times stronger than a measure of evil. So when a person does good, this good permeates all the 4 levels of creation, the mineral level, the plant level, the animal level, and the human level. So the whole will fill so much with good. And that's why the lion, the wolf will lie down with the lamb. The wolf will dwell with the lamb. Isaiah 16, because then the love of Hashem and the spiritual awareness will be so, so very strong. We're going to hold up right here. Next week, Bezrat Hashem will be our concluding lesson 4 in Torah 33. Such a beautiful Torah brings us inner peace. And Hashem should bless all of us, despite what's going on around the world. Hashem should bless us with real inner peace, and all our hearts wish his best and a lovely Shabbat. God bless.